answer. But all right. So, two types of factoring. The first one is trinomials. We've done this before, so it should seem like a review. Okay. So in trinomials, that's where we look for two numbers that multiply to be your C value. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be your C. That's the last number. So in this example, it's negative 24. Multiply, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to get this situated. Oh, it's zoomed in too much. Up there for you all. There you go. Multiply to be C and add to be the B value. So 2. So don't yell it out if you know it. We want two numbers that multiply to be negative 24, but add to be 2. Yeah. So in previous videos, I did have an X. We put negative 24 on top and 2 on the bottom. You can do that. No.
I've never seen that.
So I think I did that for the video. I don't think I actually showed that in class. So couple things to think about. Number one, we're multiplying to be a negative number. So when you multiply to be a negative, that means you have one positive and one negative number. So you got a positive and a negative. And then what you can do is just think about 24. What are the ways that you multiply to be 24? And list all of those out. So like 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So those are all the ways you can multiply to be 24. One of those has to be positive, one has to be negative, and we have to add to be 2. Does anybody know what those numbers are going to be? Do what? 6, a positive 6, and negative 4. That is correct. If you're not sure in your calculator, you can do, okay, maybe it's 3 and 8. 3 plus negative 8. No. Negative 3 plus 8. No. 4 plus negative 6. No. Negative 4 plus 6. Oh, there's my 2. So you may have to play around with the calculator and your numbers. Some of you can get it just by, it's obvious to you, but some of you it's not. So that's okay. Don't just sit there and stare at your paper. Test, play around in your calculator.
Is it like you add bottom, you add 2, you get the bottom, and you multiply 2, you get the top?
Yeah. You're adding to get this middle number, multiplying to get this third number. So then once we have our numbers, we just put those in our parentheses. N plus 6, N minus 4. So notice I put a positive 6 and a negative 4. And that's the answer. So number 2, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 28, but add to be 11. Yep. So because we're multiplying to be a positive number, both of our numbers have to either be both positive or both negative. And so Robert told me what he thought it was. He thought it is 7 and 4. So you might want to check that. Is 7, let's check here. 7 times 4, yeah, that's 28. 7 plus 4, yeah, that's 11. So our numbers are 7 and 4. You could have just said, okay, 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. If you needed to list those out, you don't have to list those. If you can think of those in your head. But sometimes if this is a big number, there's a lot. And sometimes you really do need to list them out. Sometimes you might can figure them out right off the bat.
A plus 7 and n plus 4?
Well, yeah. Well, this time it's W. W plus 7. If you put X, it doesn't really matter. Any questions? All right, number 3, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 14, but add to be 9. So if you're using the X, 14 and 9. You need to. 1 and 14. 2 and 7. That's all that go into 14. So what are my two numbers? 7 and 2. And if you put 2 and 7, it doesn't matter which order you put them in, as long as you get the positives and negatives right.
Is all that is?
Yeah.
Like
well,
more,
there could be a GCF. Other than taking out a GCF, this is it. Okay. So X plus 7, X plus 2. Or you could have put X plus 2, X plus 7. Anybody that's interested in a Letterman jacket and you need to get size, you need to go to the office right now. Okay, good. All right, number 4. We need two numbers that multiply to be -4, but add to be 3. -4 and 3. Okay, well, let's look at 4. You got 1 and 4, 2 and 2. That's it. But one has to be positive, one has to be negative, because this is a negative number. So
how would you I don't know.
So it could be like those are negative, or you could have 1 and -4. 2 and -2 would be the same. How can we get a positive 3 out of those? Okay, well, 4 and -1. If you weren't sure, -1 plus 4. Well, there it is.
Oh, okay.
So X minus 1, X plus 4. Now, numbers 5 and 6, you'll see a number in front of the x squared. Now, just because there's a number doesn't mean it can't be factored, but I haven't taught you how to do that. You're not going to do that in here. So for you all, if you see a number, then there's definitely going to be a GCF. And that GCF is going to be whatever that number is. So in number 5, the GCF is 8. So if we divide everything by 8, we get x squared plus 3x minus, it's 28. So we now are looking for two numbers that multiply to be negative 28, but add to be 3. Okay. Now, it's a negative 28, so we have one positive, one negative. What'd you say? Positive 7 and negative 4. That is correct. I love how that freezes all the time. Okay. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. Then if you add them, you do get 3. So when we write our final answer, we have to put the 8 as part of our answer.
That's what I'm saying.
And then we get to number 6, which does have a GCF of 5. So if we take out the 5, we get x squared plus 9x plus 8. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 8, but add to be 9. So like 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Which of those add up to be 9?
1 and 8.
1 and 8. So our final answer, we have the 5 from the GCF, x plus 1, x plus 8. Any questions? So that's factoring trinomials. Let's look at factoring by grouping. This is when you have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's some steps that we have to follow. Step 1 says to group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms together. So we're going to draw a line in the middle. Just kind of split it down the middle. Make sure that you don't put your line over top of that negative, or you might think it's a plus. And then we're going to look at each group separately and take out the GCF. So let's see. Let's just ignore this left side. So looking at x cubed and x squared, there's no numbers in front of them that I can divide by, but they both have some x's in common. And I can take out 2 of the x's. I can factor out x squared. If I factor out or divide by x squared, this first guy, he just has an x left. Now that second one, I took everything that he had, so we're just going to write a plus 1. We just put a 1 in its place. More like the bank just holds it for you. All your bills, that's what takes it. Now the other side. Well, there's no X's or anything, but they do have, they're both 4s, right? So you would think I'm going to take out a 4, but actually, if it starts with a negative, you have to put a negative. -4. So we're going to divide by -4. So then that gives me X. What's -4 divided by -4? A +1. If you do it correctly, then what's in the parentheses is matching. It must match what's in the parentheses.
Whoa.
If they are not identical, then you messed it up somewhere. And we write our final answer. We have 2 sets of parentheses. The first one comes from these outsides. X squared minus 4. The second set is what was left on the inside. X plus 1. So we're going to do a few examples. Any questions so far? All right. Let's look at number 7. Start by drawing a line down the middle. All right. What do x cubed and x squared have in common?
X.
Just one x?
2x.
They actually have 2 of them. So x squared. Ooh. I'm writing a little too big. All right. So if I take out x squared, I'm left with x minus 1. That's x squared. I took out the x squared, so we put a 1 in its place.
So this next one be just -8.
So we take out the 9, and then it's left with x minus 1. Because 9 and 9, I can divide out a 9 from those. And so notice what's left in parentheses does match, so we did it correctly. X squared minus 9 and x minus 1.
Too bad.
Okay. That's too close. I can't write under it. All right. Number 8. Let's draw our line down the middle. Careful not to cover up the negative. What do x cubed and 5x squared have in common? X squared again. And we're left with x plus 5 this time. Because if I took out x squared, I had 1 x left. This one, I took out the x squared. It just had that 5 left. Now, on the other side, x and 5 don't really have anything in common. So I'm just going to write -1. I have to make it negative because that first sign was negative. So -1.
But there's a minus sign.
Okay. Well, Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5. So those do match. And we're left with x squared minus 1, x plus 5. All right. Number 9. Draw our line down the middle. Well, 4 and 5 don't have anything in common. Can't divide them by anything. So look at your x's. X squared again.
Yeah. The next one will be x1.
Hold on.
No, it'll be x4.
Oh, we're still on number 9. So this one, when you take out an x squared, we're still left with that 4 and an x. And then minus 5, because we took out the x squared, it still had that 5, that minus 5. Okay. Then what about 16 and 20? What do they have in common? Yes, they do. A 4, but we're going to write negative 4 because it starts with this negative. And so 16, or negative 16 divided by negative 4 is positive 4. And then it still had the x. And then 20 divided by negative 4 is negative 5. So they match, 4x minus 5. And my answer is x squared minus 4, 4x minus 5. Any questions?
This kind of seems easier than what we were doing. I'm sure. Just look at it.
All right, try number 10 on your own. All right, so on number 10, you can factor out a 2x to the 4th, and that leaves you with x minus 9. Well, 2 and 18 are both divisible by 2, and then I can take out x to the 4th.
Yeah. I actually got that.
Good. Now the other side, now you knew it needed to be x minus 9, so that kind of gave you a little hint. But they're both divisible by 7. So if we divide out a 7, we're left with x minus 9. And so your answer is 2x to the 4th plus 7, x minus 9.